But right now, I'm working on making a new piece of this, and I've found the most amazing thing. I looked around in my stash of bits of plastic, and I've found the bottom out of a polypropylene, what would you call it? It's like a cat litter tray. It's about 4 inches deep, and it's 10 by 20 inches, and I needed to make it into a big sieve. So I cut the bottom out, replaced it with mesh, and that's the bit I've got left over. This is textured on the bottom, which is a little like the leather look vinyl that they have on the instrument binnacle itself. It is 3mm thick, and what is it? It's an offcut of vinyl flooring, imitation wood grain vinyl flooring. So it's pliable. I know that the normal vinyl flooring, if you heat it and bend it, it stays bent. So I'm going to do some experiments on this and see if I can make this in one piece with the correct radius of bend here. Luckily I've got enough here to make 2 or 3 of them if I need to. What I'm doing at the moment is making patterns of how it needs to be out of paper. Not hard. Really just hold a bit of paper behind it and draw a line. I'm confident that that's reasonably close. Of course I'll be able to Dremel and clean and get the edges a lot better when I'm working with something that's a little stiffer. So now I'm going to take this off. The angles look right. Take this off and transfer the measurements. Remembering that I want this side out. Oh, I like that. I like that a lot. So I can do that with scissors rather than having to go and find a knife. Now what I'm going to do is find the fold line. No, now what I'm going to do is trim this a little better to make it fit. This dashboard and the piece behind it that it screws into were smashed to pieces by somebody's knees, and they're absolutely unreplaceable, so I just have to do the best I can and find the bits that were in the ducting system and down behind the dashboard, glue those back in and make this piece. I'm going to show you a trick in a minute using baking soda and super glue. You won't believe how good those two things are when they're mixed together. I will need a knife. This is a knife. The radius needs to be sharper, so I'm going to take a little out of the back here with a knife. Happy with the angle. Now I know the angle, I can trim this to suit. Now, super glue and baking soda is absolutely magical. I just don't know how to explain what happens when you mix the two together, but you've got to try it. A little bit of glue on both surfaces. It's incredibly strong, and it makes super glue dry incredibly fast. Like, I would use the term instantly. A little more glue. This stuff dries so quick and so hard that if you touch the nozzle against it when you're gluing it, it actually blocks up the nozzle instantly. Like happens, like what's happening right now. I do hope that you smash something to pieces and have to fix it, because this is insanely strong. I do want you to try it. This is probably one of the best hacks that I've ever shown people.
This is the piece that the instrument binnacle fits into. You don't actually see it, but this is also smashed. Large piece of it missing, as you can see. So I'm using exactly the same technique to repair this. You can see that the tabs at the rear of this with the metal speed clips on them, they also got snapped off. Now, they're repaired with this baking soda and super glue trick, and they will be strong enough to support the binnacle. It is best not to make it an absolutely perfect fit. Leave a 1 to 2 millimeter gap that you can fill up with this compound. That'll give the joint much more strength. Now, watch this. Ridiculously strong, as you can see.
Good morning, Land Rover lovers. I'm still out here. Day, I don't know, I've lost count. But I'm still out here stripping the dashboard. I've got all of the Phillips screws out of the bottom and the 1 or 2 Phillips screws out of the top. But for some reason, when they built these things, they decided that this dash pad They decided that this bottom dash pad was going to be secured by two inaccessible, easily rusted, different types of bolts. They appear to be threaded into captive nuts inside a wee box section that runs across the bulkhead firewall, and they're rusted out, and I can't remove them. I can't get in there with an angle grinder to whop the heads off without damaging this thing. So I'm going to introduce you to yet another specialist tool that you will need if you're going to be working on Land Rovers, and that is the air-powered reciprocating saw. Great for inaccessible places, great for whopping the heads off bolts that you can't get to any other way. It's noisy, but it's got to be done. So I'm going to get in here and I'm going to whip the head off this tiny little bolt here because there's no other way. Oh dear. Oh, it's in quite a state. I suppose it's good enough to take a pattern off. I'm just going to have to remake this entire thing. Well, I'm very thankful that the firewall bulkhead itself is not rusty. There's just tiny little bits, like the bracket of the windscreen wiper motor here, that needs to be taken off and sandblasted. The only rust is on this top plate here that mounts the dash pad. I'll be getting in there and sandblasting that. Thankfully, the rest of it just needs a clean up. Let's go and have a look at the piece I just took out. Well, it seems that the only part of this that I'll be able to reuse is possibly this top piece along here. Yeah. So I guess the first thing to do is skin it. Now, isn't that a funny word? When you skin something, you're actually de-skinning it. Further investigation reveals that we've got a row of screws along here. So this top panel is removable for some reason. So I think it's within my capabilities. I'm going to have to make these sections separately and beat in the compound curves. But the great thing is it has a lightly padded surface, so anything that's not perfect is going to be hidden. I won't be able to replicate these recesses in the vinyl. I could, if I'm really careful, I might be able to reuse this vinyl if it doesn't get damaged too much as I take it off. What I'm going to do is warm it up with a heat gun, which will also soften the glue. That's actually going to be the first job. Let's go into the shed and we'll do that right now. So the first thing to do is to ping these upholstery clips off. One tool that's good for that rather than a screwdriver is actually awl. There we go, I knew I had one. An awl. An awl is a screwdriver without a blade. It just has a spiky point and it's used for making little holes, but I can just tease that in behind here and whip these things off, I hope. Of course, you've got to remember everything's been here for just under 40 years in this case. This is my first Defender. It's not, I know it's not really a Defender, but it looks like a Defender. And it's a good 15 years newer than any of the Series 3s that I've been working on. And no, it's not. Wait a minute. Brutus. Brutus is my V8 ex-New Zealand Police 109, and he's 1985. This is 1987, so it's only 2 years newer, but the technology's a whole lot better in the suspension and the brakes, but not much else. Now this will soften the glue and soften the vinyl. Make it easier to peel off without damaging it. How's that? Right, here's another thing that is made of unobtainium. There's no way I'm going to be able to get myself another one of these new. So I'll put this carefully in a very safe place. And we'll start figuring out how I'm going to do this, along with its natty little mechanism for directing the air up or down. Yes, I will sandblast that, and I will reuse that top piece. I'll probably cut it just below this line to retain some stiffness, and then I will add a piece on to the new piece I make, and I will do a lap join and put spot welds through here to join the two together. But right now, I'm going to measure everything up, take some detailed measurements of it, make a plan. Then I'm going to go and buy some galvanized 22 gauge steel. Right, this is going to be horrible, but it's the best way. I've masked up the glass, I've put these sheets down to stop sand blowing into the back, and I'm going to sandblast the rust in behind here. It's really the only way I can get to it. Anything that I can't get with sandblasting, I will put some of that CRC rust converter down there as well. I'm not using proper sandblasting sand because, hey, I can't afford it. To buy small quantities of it costs a fortune, and even if you buy it by the ton, it's $1,200 per ton for garnet here in New Zealand. So I'm using sieved beach sand, which is okay for the kind of work I'm doing. It's a little bit slow, but I'm not doing a large amount. So here goes. I do have to keep stopping. Oh, are you there? I do have to keep stopping. I do have to keep stopping to let the pressure build up. But it appears that I'm getting most of it. Pencils. Normally I find loose change, ammunition and small syringes down here because rural people, but this could be rural people with kids. Anyway, enough of the forensics. I'm going to go and blow all this down, clean it all out, get in here with some rust killer, and then we can get some paint on it.
So that's 2 days work condensed down into 38 minutes. That's enough for today, I think, or certainly enough for this video. In the next video I'm going to be... what am I going to be doing? I'm going to be putting this dashboard back together. So, hey, if you get any value out of these videos and you enjoy them, then please consider buying me a coffee. There's a link up above right here, and that will let you donate a one-time wee donation to me, just to say thank you for all the good stuff that I bring you.